live on TV and on YouTube, so.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
I think that everybody that's going to be present at the meeting is here, so I don't know what time it is, but.
It's right.
12 minutes.
Okay.
I don't know that I will have to start on time, but there may be something.
Brother wanted me to ask you when you were
Right.
going to start for this.
I'd like to have it.
So we can do that. I didn't have my phone handy, so.
As soon as I get some, see if my broker makes me some.
I told him, I said, I want to say it to him, but it's going to generate a whole bunch of other stuff.
I'm taking all my profits from my other investments.
Synchronizes with WWD.
That's where all the money for us there. Metro Council was the money they built in the foundation, not the actual.
So one of the things that
We're all
the
dressed
board
up tonight.
members would prefer to have everything,
Close the
all the
deal, huh?
materials just printed out
Well,
in here.
I had,
Somewhat my plan going forward.
let's just say a calendar full of stuff going on.
Probably have to
today, so
take a
I'm
moment.
available.
I mean, that would be,
Dress
that
back
would
up
be
like we
great
used to.
for when we have it in front of us when we're here, but it is great to have it ahead of time in case we need
we'll
to
still
do
send
it.
it
Okay,
Dressed
yeah.
like bankers, that's it, serious?
Yeah, but I think we'll just print them out. and
That would be
You know, they wear
perfect.
khaki.
That way.
Because sometimes I print it and then I try to fly the office and get here on time and I leave it laying on the desk. I'm the world's worst.
I've done that, I'll try to figure out what to print out, and I print it out, and then I look at it, I left people through.
We'll just make that plan going forward.
Yeah.
Shelter.
I was gonna say, it
That
depends
is
on who your
very
banker is.
helpful, Dave. Thank you.
It does, and everything.
Yeah, I do that quite frequently, actually.
COVID has changed dress code quite a bit.
Probably forever.
And it's just my
I'm always
preference.
trying to
to
win.
Perfect, have it all ready for us, so.
I guess we're about ready to close it.
So Mark, we talked about I'll have the board materials always just ready. here.
Okay,
So,
so we look at them ahead of time, just
yeah,
don't need to
you
print
don't have
them.
to print them unless, yeah, they'll be here waiting for you.
Okay,
That is great.
ink and, paper's not bad, but the ink is, the pocketbook's pretty bad.
Especially when I usually leave them on my desk when I'm running out anyway, you know.
Hello?
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Jim.
Mind moving right there, you're in front of the camera.
Call in for the
How are
meeting.
you?
Either way.
I'm well.
Good. Are you traveling right now?
I am. I'm left the meeting in Georgetown, and it's a pretty sunset, but it's gone. I was just telling Sam, I think he obviously talked with you. You'd be looking at a dark version of my tin in my car, so I thought maybe the call would be better.
Yeah, that sounds good. We're gonna get started here in a couple minutes. You're down toward the end of the agenda simply because we had originally planned for you to be here in person. So
Huh?
I don't think the rest of the agenda items will take really too long, but
Okay.
you'll be about probably 15, 20 minutes away.
Okay, thank you. I'll be on standby.
All right, sounds good.
I guess we may as well. Call the November 16th meeting of the Glasgow Electric Plant Board together. The agenda is before you. Do I hear an approval recommendation?
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Have a motion, have a second?
Second.
Have a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Minutes of the previous meeting, which are in your list of things here. Which I looked over a little bit. I didn't find anything contrary to what I remember. Do I hear a motion to adopt the meetings of the previous meeting?
Motion.
Have a motion, hear a second?
Second.
Have a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Recommendations of the programming committee?
Yeah, so the programming committee, we held a meeting last Tuesday, I believe it was, November 9th. And we had a couple of things that we went over. Let's see, what was it? We have a renewal of the Hallmark channel, and there's the rates in that table for one of the items. Right now, we currently pay 14.3 cents per subscriber, and the rates chart is there going up to 17.43 cents in 2025. the Hallmark M&M channel and the Hallmark Drama channel are also included at no extra charge. So the committee approved that. And then we also discussed sponsorship packages for the Christmas parade. The Christmas parade will be held, what's the date of that? I think it's December 4th.
4th, I
Yeah.
believe.
So these are sponsorship packages for local businesses to sponsor our, the parade. And we have talent that's going to be located at one certain site talking about all the parade as it goes by. And during the broadcast, we'll be, have sponsors that will be doing different ads and stuff like that. So that was, the package was for a full sponsorship, $250, and for feature sponsors, $150. And we have, I think, 7 of 9 spots already
They've sold them
committed
all
to.
out.
Well, they sold them all out as of,
Mhm.
yeah,
As of-
that's as of today.
Mhm.
Okay. So, the cable, the committee approved this packages, and we sold them all out, so that's good.
It's over with, they approved it.
Yeah, right. So,
It's gone.
and then, there was one other item that is escaping me on. Oh, it was just, signing the Nbcu, contract, so. That's it.
Very good. Do I hear a motion to approve the change in the
I
program?
make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Bank signatories, number 4.
And we need to adopt this signature?
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
So number 4, the bank signatories, there's two pieces to this. The first piece is to approve myself, David Puskala, Amy Hall, Trig Perkins, and Josh Francis as the signatories for the EPB. And the second piece is to adopt the 1 signature requirement. Right now, we require 2 signatures for the checks. We're going to go to a 1 signature requirement. And there's still, of course, purchases over a certain size need board approval and things like that. So the way this will work is that even though all of the signatories are equal, so to speak, I'm going to be the primary signer of the checks, and others will really only sign them in my absence. And we do that each Friday. We do check signing. And then, of course, just proper procedure is that, so I'm seeing all of the checks that are going out the door, that we're making payments, and then Melanie gets the bank statement at the end of the month, and she goes through and verifies all of it, and that's the check and balance between the two things. That's why she's not a signatory on the account. So, and we hadn't made me a signer yet, and we also are looking at just having people that we aren't going to retire, or haven't talked about retiring in a couple of years and things like that. So these are the 4 that we're recommending to approve as signatories, and then we'll probably want to do them 1 step at a time, and then adopting the 1 signature requirement.
Dave, this question would be for you or Melanie, either one, but I haven't had any experience with a business this size, but is that customary to have 1 signature on?
And we spoke with the auditor, actually, when he was here before, to make sure he was okay with that. And with all of the internal controls we have in place, before the check ever gets written, he said that's perfectly fine.
Now, you're talking about Carr, or?
Yes.
Is his name Laney? He was
Uh-huh.
here, sat next to me last.
Yes.
And they're okay with it?
Okay.
Yeah, Mark, I did ask Melanie before we got started about those signatures, because in the audits in the past, we generally have 1 or 2 comments about making sure there are safety checks, and I wanted to be sure that had been run by the auditors, and she assured me it has, so that won't show up.
Right. The other aspect to it going back a step, is that none of the signatories really have access to the checks. You know, the checks are accessed, and by accounting, they have them, you know, under lock and key, so to speak. So they have access to the checks. They're printing them out, getting all the detail with them. I'll sign them, and then, you know, Melanie does the check when they come back on the bank statement. So those are the checks and balances that are in place and that the auditor has reviewed.
Do we have, I don't know if the bonding would be the correct term, but is our insurance cover any loss from
For
the
fraud.
project?
Yeah, I don't know what the exact limits are, but yes, we do have
And-
insurance coverage for that.
And Melanie can speak better to this, Mark, but this is a continuation of some changes we made as a result of a previous audit where Melanie was a check signer, and then also, you know, the CFO, so, which means that there was a lot of control in her hands on it, and so we already made when was that change made that you were no longer a
It's been a
signatory?
couple years ago.
Yeah. So that was as a result of the auditor saying, you know, you need to separate these things, and so,
Okay.
yeah. Any other questions?
Okay, anything else? All right, I guess we approve the following signatories for the Section A.
We need a motion
Yeah.
for
I
that.
need a motion. I have a
make the
motion. Got it?
Yeah, I was
To
going to say, I
approve
make the
those.
motion that we approve David Puskula, Amy Hall, Trig Perkins, and Josh Francis as bank signatories.
Any further discussion, or?
I second that.
Excuse me, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And then to follow up, let's make a motion to adopt one signature requirement for business check signing.
I'll second that.
Which is Dave.
Would it,
Second, any discussion?
yeah, as far as the insurance policy for fraud, could we get our insurance company, I don't even know who it is, but it's someone local?
We go through Pettigo, Lansingberry, but it's all through KLC, Kentucky League of Cities.
Okay. Could you make a call and make sure that's okay with them? I don't want to give an insurance company a reason not to pay a claim.
Yeah.
And it never happened.
Right, yeah, that's not a problem.
They do that sometimes.
They do.
No further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next, the superintendent's report.
All right, so the first item on the superintendent's report is the monthly fuel cost adjustment. The December monthly fuel cost adjustment will be 2.359 cents per kilowatt hour, and that's up from 2.193 in November. You don't have that written anywhere handy on that sheet, but if you look down in the table below, the very bottom line, you'll see the 2.359 in the shaded box at the very bottom. It's pretty small, it's hard to see. And then you can see November's next to it, which was 2.193. And then the rest of that chart is somewhat of a forecast for the next year as well. So that's the fuel adjustment.
Dave, would you consider that a pretty big jump for 1 month?
No, it's pretty, you know, this time of year, it's pretty standard. It's going to move all over the place, but, you know, it's a jump of 0.2 of a cent. And it has to do with natural gas prices largely
Yeah.
going up because of this time of year.
Was my next
Things like
question.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, the next item is the October outage report. We're looking at the best way to present some of this data. This is the format that we chose for October. It's got 3 years of history on the bar graph. The blue on the left is 2019. In October of 2019, we had 20 outages. In October of 2020, we had 12, and this year we had 15. And if you flip to the next page, all of those, that first page is basically broken down by the type of outage. And so if you look at this year, the 4 different, toward the end, there's 4 different bar graphs will add up to the 15 outages. So 3 outages in October were because of equipment issues. 5 outages were due to animals. 3 are other, and 4 are unknown. So the other, don't remember what.
It could be that someone hit a pole. Or,
Yeah, it's just a miscellaneous.
right.
So, and the unknown, we don't like to have unknown, but sometimes it just isn't known why the outage occurred. So, we're gonna keep refining this report, and at the end of the year, we'll give a summary of the entire year compared to previous years. So, and then finally, under the superintendent's reports is the payment in lieu of taxes. And you can see that the payment in lieu of taxes for 2021 is down to, it's 411 million this year versus last year with 422 million. And I'm going to turn it, what's that?
1,000, not million.
1,000, not million.
Both, yeah, sorry, 1,000.
You got to bankrupt us here.
City of Glasgow will be rich though. 411,000 was the 2021 payment, and 422,000 was the payment in 2020. And just for a next quick explanation, I'll turn it over to Melanie as to why that is.
Okay. And you all may or may not be aware, but these are, of course, in lieu tax payments. So part of the TVA Act requires us to make these payments, and they are based off of our net book value of the plant that we have, so it's not a property appraisal. I file that property tax return each year, and the state sends that back, verifies everything, checks the tax rates, and there's a calculation in there. It's a certification factor, and that can fluctuate each year. That's not anything we have control over. That was 1.0 last year. This year it was 0.95. So that's the main reason for the reduction from last year in taxes. So we will be sending out checks to all of those agencies listed there for those amounts.
This is an additional tax on the citizens of Glasgow that go into the city coffers and whatnot.
I'm sorry, say that again.
It's an additional tax. In addition to their property tax, they're
They
paying a
pay
tax.
us so we can pay
Yeah.
that tax.
Yeah.
We're collecting it for them.
Right.
Right, basically, yeah.
Yeah. It's a rip.
Pretty standard, even though it's
I know.
strange.
It is.
All right, that's the end of the superintendent's reports. Any questions on any of those? Okay,
Okay.
move on to item 6, which is proposal to pay off. Got it right here.
Okay, this is something that Dave and I discussed. I don't know how far he's discussed it with the other players, but it is a proposal to pay the bonds that we already have outstanding that are from 12. We have enough cash in hand to pay it, and he's suggesting we go ahead and pay it,
Yep.
and we won't be renewing them.
So just to summarize the proposal, so what we've done is we've changed the proposed bond offering size from 6.47 million to 4 million. We reduced it to 4 million. When we talked last month, we were really proposing 6.47 million. We've reduced that proposal to 4 million, and the change is made up of 2 parts. And we'll talk about the first part right now, and the second part we'll talk toward it on item number 7. So the first piece of this proposal is to pay off the 2012 bond with cash on hand instead of refinancing the bond. We were originally talking about refinancing the 2012 bond in 2021 because the rates were lower, and it would make sense, we would save some money over the course of the repayment by refinancing it. Since then, we've talked with, our CPA firm, Melanie and I, and with the bond company, and it makes more sense for us to just pay off that 2012 bond with cash on hand. And some of that extra cash on hand comes from TVA's, what was that program called? That
When we signed the long-term agreement, 20-year agreement, we get credits for
Yeah.
that. And you all voted when we first signed that to not pass those on to the customers, but to save that for a later use. So that's,
and that's part of what we're doing here. So using it to pay off 2012. So I think it's important to point out that we have sufficient cash on hand, and we're staying well within the ratios, which it was part of the discussion with Chip and others when it came to did it hinder our ability to do the second piece, which is to borrow the $4 million for the projects that we have proposed. So with that, I guess I would ask that, you know, we get approval to pay off the 2012 bond with cash on hand.
I would move to do just that, to pay off the 2012 bond issue. I've got the CUSIPs, I don't know how much it is. I came to about $1,340,000, but
Yeah.
somewhere there, with the cash that we have on hand.
Need a second? Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? Approved?
Okay. So now it's the bond issue proposal, and Chip, this is where, you know, you can chime in. I can turn it over to you, or I can walk through, you know, what the bond issue proposal is for. How do you want to handle it?
I'll follow your lead. I'd be willing to lead off, and then I'll just, I'll pepper in some thoughts as we go along.
Okay. So I just want to review again what the bond issue that we're proposing is for. And, you know, I've sent, this was part of the packet of information that was on the web for the board. But I'll just review it quickly here. So the first piece for this $4 million bond proposal, the first piece of it is transmission pole replacement. So our 69 kV system is referred to as a sub-transmission system, which that simply means that it's a lower voltage than what TVA typically transmits at, but it's certainly not low enough to be considered a distribution voltage. So it's called sub-transmission. For the most part, 69 kV is a transmission voltage, but in the world of TVA, it's more or less considered a sub-transmission voltage. So that 69 kV system connects 6 of our substations and also our 2 TVA delivery points. That's what's connecting the 69 kV transmission system, is what's connecting all of those substations together. And in 2019, we began a pole replacement program for these poles that we determined to be toward the end of their useful life. We completed that first piece of the project in the fall of 2020. So this is really a continuation. What we're proposing these bond proceeds to be used for is a continuation of that plan. And if you look at the big sheets, the map that's on the very front, that is, in the black lines are the 69 kV transmission system that are highlighted. So we have the delivery point down at Haywood. We've got the delivery point over at East Glasgow, which is labeled EGP. So that's where TVA feeds us. And then the 69 kV system connects the rest of our substations to those 2 points. So $1 million of the proceeds are proposed to keep doing these pole changes. I think at this point we've probably walked, I don't know, 20 or 30% of the system. We found 4 for sure that need to be changed, and you know, we haven't gotten to some of the areas that we think are the worst yet, but we've identified 4 so far, and we're thinking we can probably change anywhere from 16 to 20 with the $1 million. we're gonna wait and save the western leg from Haywood as last. That's an area where we know there's a lot of poles there, but we're gonna hold off on really looking at that because it's we call it Circuit 127 that comes north out of Haywood, and then the 69 kV system that's connecting East Glasgow and in the center of town is really the most important piece to make sure we have stable. So that's the transmission pole replacement. And then we talked about the Cherry Street distribution rebuild, and last time we talked, I had several different distribution projects that we were proposing, but we've really narrowed it down to just the East Cherry Street and Columbia Avenue replacement. It's that section of line on East Cherry Street that runs from Columbia Avenue to North Race, and it's the second map that you have in your package there. And then there's the line on Columbia Avenue. And the next map really just highlights it in detail. So each of these maps kind of keep getting more and more, zoom in further and further. So you can see kind of in detail where the section of line, distribution line that we're proposing to change or to rebuild along Columbia Avenue and along East Cherry Street. And the reason for this is that right now we cannot use the East Cherry Street as like a main feeder.
Yeah.
It just won't hold the load. It's fine when it's coming in from the west, northwest, and feeding the customers that it feeds along East Cherry Street and Columbia Avenue. But these two normally open points, we couldn't close those in and really use this as a main feeder. It would not hold it. So, and yet that's the center of town. That's the heart of Glasgow, And so rebuilding this, for one thing, the poles need to be replaced. The conductor is too small. A lot of the poles are really near the roadway. We're going to try to move it off the roadway. It's really a good project for stability of the system and flexibility. So there again, we have $1 million. We're earmarking $1.5 million for this project. We still haven't engineered it. We don't know exactly what the cost is going to be, but before moving forward with the project, we will be bringing it to the board and reviewing the project first. So it won't be a surprise where, hey, we spent $2.5 million instead or anything like that. We'll really work to keep it within the scope that we've identified.
So the purpose of the whole Cherry Street thing, if I understand correctly, is when you say feeder. So if you've got an outage over here in this area, you can direct
Exactly.
the electric from that area as
Right.
okay. That's
Yeah,
what.
it would be a matter of like, let's just say there's over here there's a problem. We could close this switch and feed this way. Right now the power is coming in from this way.
That was my understanding. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that I was
That's
right on
exactly
that.
right.
Okay.
Alternate connection.
Yeah, we have all over town there's switches that are open and closed.
Yeah.
And ideally you want to be able to just about open any switch and close any switch and feed. We really can't do that in areas like this where the wire just is not big enough to hold the load other than.
Yeah. I mean, I think honestly, that's for reliability. That's just a great project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really does make a lot of sense. It's one that was identified, before I arrived on the scene, but it just had never really gone forward, and now we're going to take care of it. So.
Awesome.
And then the other remaining balance is $1.5 million is really earmarked for what I'm calling ad hoc capital projects that are determined as necessary to improve reliability or flexibility, and it might even be because of an unforeseen repair cost due to storm damage and so on. So in a nutshell, those three pieces are what make up the $4 million bond proposal. So with that, now Chip, I'll turn it over to you and you can take it from there.
Sure. I'll talk a little bit about what we're expecting from the market perspective. I'll talk about schedule a little bit, and then we're going to be questions you guys have. Real quick, to back up on that, the cash redemption, Dave, we're going to coordinate that for you guys. And as you know, each bond issue that you have has a debt service reserve. So the amount that you all will need, we're going to coordinate that cash redemption to occur on December the 22nd. We need to allow a certain amount of time for the bondholders. But the amount will be $1,124,000. Because you're going to have $132,000 from a debt service reserve that's tied to the 2012 issue. Assuming you guys aren't earning anything on that cash, which is probably pretty likely, that maneuver alone is going to save just over a couple $100,000. So we agree it's a smart move. We will coordinate that with you and Melanie, Dave. But I just wanted to let you guys know that.
Okay.
Yeah, on the bond, nothing different than what we typically do here. We're looking to get a long-term fixed rate deal. We're going to get authorization from the board. Hopefully, it will allow us to sell bonds on a competitive basis to the underwriting firms. We are pursuing insurance. We were talking to 2 insurance companies, and we have bids in hand, and just looking at the math initially, if we can secure the bond insurance, it'll save about $50,000 to $75,000 total repayment to the system. So it makes sense to use the insurance in that situation. The goal with an approval tonight of the bond resolution would be in a position to sell the first week in December and close the 21st of December. Interest rate wise, interest rate, the headlines talk about inflation and trade. In fact, you be following markets closely, you'll notice that treasuries have been going up. However, municipal bonds have remained stubbornly low, and so there remains a good time to sell the debt if we're successful with our sale. We should have an interest rate around 2.2, 2.25, something like that, fixed for 20 years. So that's the budget right now. The payments per year, are going to be about $250,000 per year, annual level repayment. I'm going to pause there for a second, Dave, if there's any questions.
I don't know if this is the time, but I think, Chip, one thing that would be good to review for all of the board members is how the reserve requirement comes into play and what that really means and what that ties us to and how that works.
Sure. So the debt service reserve, when revenue bonds, and when we sell municipal bonds that are secured by revenues, and in this situation, electric revenues and other broadband, the bond investors generally would like to see the additional credit enhancement of what's called a debt service reserve. And basically, there's a calculation that we do with our debt structuring software that comes up with the number. It's a minimum of 3 tests, but it essentially shakes out to about the equivalent of a year's worth of payments set aside. And what that is used for, that will remain on your balance sheet until bonds are paid off. And so just like those 2012 bonds we were talking about, that debt service reserve that was attached to those bonds and they were sold back in 2012, that cash sat on your balance sheet restricted to only be used to pay debt service or to prepay debt. And so that's what we're doing with it. Same thing here. And it's about a year's worth of payment. And basically what that does for the bond investors that would buy your bond, it gives them ample comfort that, if something were to go wrong, at least the parent board has the cash on hand that they can use to make debt service payments to the bond investors, with the idea being that surely within monthly meetings and the ability for the board to reset rates, making good things back in shape if they needed to. At the convention with water revenue bonds, electric revenue bonds, cable revenue bonds, that kind of thing, and the establishment of this board on the indenture.
Thanks, that's helpful. Any further questions on that piece?
The comment, Chip, about the insurance, is that, are these bond insurers?
Yes, bond insurance, correct.
And how are they rated?
They're going to be in the AA range. We're going to be higher than where you all are. But, on that note, we have a rating call. We're setting for a rating call in this week. And by the middle part of next week, we'll have a rating release. Currently, the poll board's rated 83. The last time it was reviewed was in 2019. The credit profile, in our opinion, is continuing to improve. A plus on hand, as you all noted, has grown. I don't think this use of the $1.2 million is going to, or $1.1 million is going to be detrimental to that effort either. I mean, we're paying down debt, so it's a good thing. So, there's positive pressure on the poll board's credit rating. And if that happens, then perhaps the bond insurance is less desirable, but that's just something that we continue to run for you all to show. And, I'll stop right there.
But were the 2012 bonds, I know this is a different issue, but were they insured?
You asked me a question. I can look pretty quickly and find out.
Chip, I think they were. This is
It might have been.
but I'm not seeing it on the OS. You don't think it was?
They were new money in the funding bonds.
These are not
I
insured.
don't know.
These were not
It would be on
insured.
the cover.
Chip, these were not insured.
Okay. Hi, Kristen.
In the end, this is a mathematical calculation of whether its savings is more than the cost of the insurance. So,
Well, I mean, yeah, I just, where most of these bonds would be sold locally or fairly local.
not with the changes in the way they do the bid process.
Probably not.
Chip, can you speak to that? Do you hear that question, Chip?
To premium.
Sam, did you talking as well?
They were just asking about the local sale, and I said no, because the rules have changed on that. You might speak to that.
Yeah, in terms of who is going to buy the bond, and Baird serves as municipal advisor. Our firm did not bid on those bonds in a primary offering. So, that the $4 million Kentucky issuance, insured, electric revenue, it's going to get interest in banks, from some high net worth individuals, insurance companies. We'd expect pretty decent, robust bidding from many other firms. At 3 to 5 bids is something that we were happy with.
That's all.
Further discussion? No, we don't have this written up, this motion.
So, you mind if I can go forward now with my
Yeah,
portion?
sure.
Okay,
Chip,
that's my job.
Okay, hold on.
Go ahead.
Hey, Chip, are you all set? Otherwise, if you are, we'll turn it over to Kristen now.
Yeah, David, I just wanted to, pass on a compliment to you. You've been very reactive, and appreciate your help with this. So far, it's been super smooth, and I do look forward to the rating process. I think the rating agencies are going to respond to, the financial position of the parent board, and anyway, just wanted to thank you and Larry.
Thank you.
I'm going to talk on you.
Can I go now, Chip?
All you, Kristen.
Okay. All right, so it's my job to put all this in writing.
That's what I was wondering where this
With
was.
Nick, yeah, okay. And so this is a fairly simple resolution that's typical of this kind of a transaction, and it will, okay. So
I'll copy hers.
this resolution is for consideration by the board tonight, for the purposes of whoever happens to be watching. My name is Christian Juckett. I'm an attorney with Rubin and Hayes in Louisville, and we are the board's bond counsel. So the idea with this resolution is for the board to consider authorizing these bonds. The amount would be $4,160,000, plus 10% or minus whatever you all choose. So the idea of having some flexibility is because of the way bids come in. Sometimes bids may be coming in at a discount. So for your $4,160,000 worth of bonds, the bid might be something less. We'll give you $4 million for those bonds. They also might be bid, and if that happens, if they bid you, if they say, we'll give you $4 million for your $4.16 million, you'll end up selling, Chip, you'll have to remind me how this works, but selling a few more, you'll have to increase your principal amount a little bit, so you'll need a little bit of flexibility. More recently, bidders have been bidding a premium. So they give you for your $4.1 million worth of bonds, sometimes a bid might be $4.3 million. If they're bidding a premium, then you sell fewer bonds than you expect. So we need a little bit of flexibility just because of the way the bond bids come in. The premium and discount, those are offset by interest rates. So for some reason recently, we've seen real high premiums, and it pushes the yield up, and how that affects interest rates. So they want a higher yield because it makes it easier to sell. So they're willing to buy at a high premium. Rates are so weirdly low right now, it can make a bond not look good. Who wants a bond that says it's 1%? But they say, well, the yield's 2.5, and it makes it look better. I think that's the reason. Chip might be able to explain that. I'm a lawyer. So anyway, so if the board adopts this resolution, it'll be authorizing electric plant revenue bonds in the amount of approximately $4.60 million. It authorizes the sale of the bonds at a public sale on this internet bidding platform. If anybody wants to watch that happen, Chip can give you the link to watch it. Effectively what'll happen is at 11:30, a bunch of bids will pop up on the website. It's easy to pick the winner because they have the lowest interest rate. This resolution also authorizes these other bond documents. So there's a trust indenture, that the supplemental indenture number 4. In 2016, the board approved a master indenture that has all the nitty-gritty in it. When we do new deals, we just make small amendments to it. That's what this supplemental indenture was. The other document is an official statement. That document will be used to market the bonds. It describes the terms for repayment. It describes the board. Melanie and Dave have been helping me work on the description, updating your all's description of the board for bond buyers. It includes a description of the other legal aspects of the indentures. If we're authorized tonight to move forward, we'll finalize the appendices to that, the exhibits to that official statement for purposes of marketing the bonds. This resolution also authorizes revenues of the system to be used as security. Your trustee is and has been U.S. Bank, so we're keeping them as trustee. This also authorizes the bond insurance. Does anybody else have questions about bond insurance? Like
I'm
Sam,
going to have one, though.
yeah, Sam was saying it's a pretty straightforward calculation. You've got to pay a premium, and is it offset by a lower interest rate?
Exactly. And paragraph 8 here says that policy would be issued if the superintendent and chairman think it's the best interest of the board. But I'm curious to what Baird thinks.
And that's why I made the comment about it's just purely a mathematical calculation. I mean, if it helps market the bonds, which brings in more bidders to the sale, pushes the rate down. So, I mean, if the premium is $30,000, but by having a lower interest rate, you save $130,000, and it kind of pays for itself. And so what we do is we figure out whether that projected lower interest rates is going to be enough to offset the rate. We don't have an opinion specifically about whether it's good or not. We just let the numbers kind of speak for themselves.
You know, in 2008, it turns out that a lot of bond insurers had a lower credit rating than the companies they were insuring, and I
They were
wonder
crushed.
if it's worth the money.
In 2008, the legacy insurers were all crushed. So these newer companies don't have as high a rating as those legacy insurance companies before the Great Recession. So it becomes somewhat, it's the same calculation, but since they have a lower rating, they can't get you as good an interest rate as they used to be able to. So you don't.
I'll add, Christian, I'll add to that, so in this situation, what we're looking at right now, the rating of the plan forward is A3. So electric revenue credit in Kentucky, it's rated A3. On an uninsured basis, will sell about, 15 basis points higher in yield, in interest rate, if you will, than an insured deal would. So that the insurance is about, like I said, about 15 basis points benefit. The cost of the insurance is about $16,000. It's like 25 basis points of total debt service estimated. So in this situation, what I was saying, I think earlier was, okay, the insurance premium costs about $16,000, but you save net of that cost, $50,000 to $75,000 in total repayment. That's with the current resting assumption that we're A3. If our rating improves, I should say if the plan forward's rating improves, then that benefit is less, and we would move to recommending not using insurance because it's just not worth having a bond insurer have say in your documents.
It's fine. It's satisfactory answer.
So that issue remains to be resolved.
Yep.
As up to date. The other point that I'd make about this resolution is it anticipates that the bonds will be tax exempt, qualified tax exempt obligations. And so what that means is IRS gives a benefit to a small issuer of bonds. If you're going to, in any calendar year, if you're going to issue less than $10 million, a bank can buy the bonds and write off the cost of carry. That's all that means. So it gives banks an incentive to bid on the bonds. It can potentially save you a little bit of interest. Does anybody have questions about this resolution? Or the bond process in general? So if you all adopt this tonight, then we'll keep plowing forward and preparing the documents in anticipation of a sale on the 16th. We'll finalize that preliminary official statement there. And you all are welcome to look at it and let me know if you have comments or questions at any time. But we'll be able to finalize it once you have a rating and we know whether you're going to have insurance. So it'll be posted about a week prior than the sale.
So between Chip and Kristen, what I would recommend is just walking through for the board, if we approve this resolution tonight, just exactly kind of what happens on the timeline. We discussed it here already, but let's walk through it. With the approval of this resolution tonight, then what happens? Just the timeline between now to the point where the sale is complete, if you would, including the rating call that we're going to have.
All right, Chip, you want to handle up to the sale?
Sure. So immediately following this with this authorization, then, we expect a rating call, the business call with Moody's about an hour and a half, where they'll review some information that we've shared with them, that you and Melanie have shared with us, and get a rating on the proposed bonds. And with that rating, we will decide, the benefit of the insurance, make the full final trigger on that, and then be in a position to sell bonds. And I believe, Christian, we got the scheduled sale for December the 2nd.
Well, the 2nd of December. You're
December.
right, I said that wrong. The 2nd of December. 2nd of December.
Yeah, and then we'll have a close 7 weeks later, and the close is where Christian and Nick will be able obtain the case signatures and secure the closing from if we use the buy insurance, the buy insurance, the trustee, etc.
So after the sale on the 2nd, then we get hard numbers from the buyer. And
Yeah, so the bond sale date is the date that we will use this document, the Christian reference, the preliminary official statement. We will conduct, Baird is going to conduct on behalf of the plan forward a public offering of bonds. We're going to use what we call the parity platform, which is an online bidding platform. The documents will be circulated widely to the investment community, and then we will solicit bids and say, hey, on this date and time, we want to see your bid. We want to know what your interest rate is and how much you're charging to provide the bond. And we will measure all that. We will award to the parent where it has the lowest overall true interest cost to the board. So Chris was talking about premium and discount. We factor that into the price. And then with that, we have a firm bid in hand. And we appropriately size the bond issue, and then we move to close. And at that closing, they renew and they'll have the funds in hand to use for the plant board's benefit.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, got anything to add to that?
No, I was going to say, once we have the sale, then I'll have members to fill in all the closing documents.
Okay.
And then we come back on, someday prior to the 21st, I'll talk to you and we'll schedule a time that's convenient.
Okay.
Ms. Short will sign also. Mr. Froge, you do not have to sign a lot of closing documents, but I might get a couple copies of this resolution if you all adopt it tonight. But someday prior to the 21st, so that I can have all the paperwork in order and I hold them in escrow until the closing. The only thing that happens on the 21st is money moves around.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll appear magically in your account so you can start your project.
Okay, great. So, any other questions before we move to the...
Well, not being a financial or legal, I have to depend on your skills here. And
Yes, sir.
If you say it's okay, it's going to be okay with me.
Good. That's why we're hired.
I understand that. If it were up to us, we'd be in a lot of trouble. So,
Yeah.
any further questions? Hearing none. The motion is, as this resolution,
Does the resolution need to be read in its entirety?
So the caption is intended to be a summary of the contents of the resolution.
Okay.
So
you
it's
want to make a motion as to the summary here?
Sure. So resolution of the Electric Plant Board of the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, authorizing and providing for the issuance of the City of Glasgow, Kentucky Electric Plant Board Electric System Revenue Bonds in the approximate principal amount of $4,160,000. I make a motion that we accept this resolution as written.
Second.
Have a second?
Mark, second. Yeah.
Have a second? Any discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, we take a vote. I think it should be a roll call vote. Mel, excuse me.
Better not vote.
Libby?
What's my name, DJ? Okay,
I'm gonna call you
yes.
Melody, I already did.
Yeah, I've been called worse, so it's okay. Yes.
Mr. Witcher?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All, chairman votes yes. Motion carries.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yep.
On the
Thanks, Chip.
same, Chip, I'm going to address an SEC resolution real quick on the same topic, if you all don't mind. And
Sure.
and
They're always exciting.
it's for the next meeting, if you all don't mind, and I might describe what it is. So, when the board, when any entity in Kentucky issues bonds on the public market, they're subject to Securities and Exchange Commission jurisdiction. And what that means practically is it imposes an obligation on the board to update data to a website once a year. Audit and some other operating data. It's been happening for quite some time. These rules were beefed up a little bit after the Great Recession, which honestly, nobody in Kentucky defaults. We have one or two around. Because of Florida and Texas, we have new regulations. So what I'd like to do is have the board sort of renew its obligations, recognize its obligations to the SEC to update this data. The reason why I'm doing it again is underwriters will ask us, has the board adopted rules to ensure compliance with SEC regulations? The answer is yes, you have. You did in 2014 because I managed that. I'm going to have you re-adopt them if the board's willing and interested in doing that at the next meeting.
Okay.
just to renew its commitment to the following SEC regulations.
I mean, regulations have changed since then, so I think it's a good idea for
That's
us
the
to.
idea.
Yeah,
And-
absolutely.
And it tells underwriters that you all are paying attention, and so I think that they need to know that the board is, they are obligated to inquire. So we'll be able to say, yes, they've already been adopted, they're going to renew them. They will consider these guidelines for renewal in their December meeting.
Now,
That's all I have.
which night did we change our December meeting to?
It's the 21st.
It's the 21st,
Yeah.
exactly, okay.
Oh, that's the same night. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah. Actually, yeah,
Because
that's
that
fine.
will work since it's after the sale?
Yeah, it's okay. I'll put it in the resolution.
Okay.
You're gonna consider- I'm sorry, in the official statement that you're going to consider.
Okay.
updating the next meeting. But, you know, maybe,
I mean, that's why I was asking,
I
because, I
might
mean,
drop it. Yeah, I know. Okay. I'll think about that.
I mean,
I'll
if the
talk to Melanie
21st is
about
the
it.
closing date, I mean, if they're bidding on it, would you not want that with the rest of the packet when
Well,
they're
it's-
bidding?
So at the sale, it's not uncommon to say, we plan to do these things.
Oh, yeah,
In the offering documents.
yeah.
And I might still do that. We'll talk about it. Nick and maybe we'll decide whether or not to do it. Because you already have guidelines in place. And I can call Melanie and talk about it. Okay.
If we need to, we can always call a special
That's not-
meeting.
Absolutely.
So,
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, whatever you need
That's
us
not
to
that
do.
important.
okay.
It's of minor importance. Okay, anybody else? Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Chip.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chip. I think that you're probably free to go. We only have 2 more items left on the agenda, and one of them is the last one, which is adjournment, so.
And the other one, I don't think is going to take very long.
Right.
Is there any,
Yeah.
Thank you, Sam.
See you, Chip.
Thanks, Chip. We'll be in touch.
See ya.
is there any new or old business that needs to be brought to the table?
I do not have any.
Hearing none? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion? Second?
Second? All in favor? Aye.
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 We are adjourned.
Thanks, everybody. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.